The countdown for electing a new president in Sri Lanka has now begun, and it's going to be a three-way fight. As three candidates were nominated today to replace the former Sri Lankan president Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the Sri Lankan parliament will now vote for a new leader of the country tomorrow. The three-way contest is between the acting president, of course, Ranil Wickremesinghe, who will face the former education minister Dulas Allaha Peruma of the SLPP, who has the backing of the main opposition, and the leftist leader Anura Dissanayake. A secret ballot will be held tomorrow to choose the leader. However, in a surprise move this morning, the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa from the Samagi Jana Balawagaya party took his nomination back. He has extended the support to the ruling SLPP's Allaha Peruma. Earlier, the Sri Lankan president Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled to Singapore and resigned last week after hundreds of thousands of anti-government protesters stormed his presidential palace. On Friday, the parliament accepted Rajapaksa's resignation and commenced the process of electing a new president a day later. Sri Lanka is now witnessing unprecedented economic crises with almost no foreign exchange reserves left. To import the commodities of even basic necessities, the country is now eyeing a bailout package from the International Monetary Fund. Sri Lanka's acting president Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that the country has almost concluded the negotiations with the IMF. The statement came after Wickremesinghe gazetted orders late on Sunday for a state of emergency in an effort to avoid the unrest ahead of a vote in parliament tomorrow.
ආර්ථිකය හදාගන්නට IMF සමග සාකච්ඡා ආරම්භ කරා. මිත්‍ර රටවල් එක්ක කතා කරගෙන යනවා. මේ ආර්ථික කඩාවැටීමෙන් විශාල පාඩුවක් අපිට ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒවට මුහුණ දෙන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ග අපි සකස් කරන්න තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, lashing out at the former president Rajapaksa, Wickremesinghe reportedly said that Gotabaya's government was covering up facts, while adding that he aimed to stabilize the island nation's devastated economy by the end of 2023. Meanwhile, protests continue to rock the streets of Colombo as dozens of members of the Sri Lankan trade unions protest outside the capital's main railway terminal, demanding Wickremesinghe's resignation. Now, for more analysis, joining us live from Colombo is Dr. Pakiasothy Sarvanamuttu, who is a political analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. My first question to you, all eyes will be on Sri Lanka tomorrow as a new president is elected. What are your predictions as of now, and will it help bring the island nation out of the crisis that it has now been facing for months?
Well, the speculation is that with Sajith Premadasa's withdrawal and he throwing the support of the Samagi Jana Balawagaya behind Dulas Allaha Peruma, that Dulas Allaha Peruma might well become the next president. It is also speculated that when he becomes the next president, that Sajith Premadasa will be made the prime minister.
Right. If that does happen, will it help the country come out of the economic crisis? We've seen growing calls for resignation of the acting president, Wickremesinghe's resignation as well. Unprecedented protests take over the streets of the capital, Colombo, where you're based out of as of now. What are your predictions as of now? Will the political crisis help? Will the political crisis resolve itself with the appointment of a new president?
Yes, I suspect that there will be at least a period of respite from the political instability as a consequence of agitation on the streets. They will probably want to give the new administration a chance, but if they do not succeed, I think within a period of 6 months, we might see it all starting again. But for the moment, I think there will be a degree of political stability because the anger, the frustrations, the bitterness, the dissent is being directed against Ranil Wickremesinghe.
What about the way forward? We know that the country is currently seeking a bailout with the IMF. Talks are close to completion as of now. What will happen on that front?
Well, I think the talks will continue. The two people in the Samagi Jana Balawagaya, Mr. Dr. Harsha De Silva and Mr. Eran Wickremaratne, who've been associated with the economic policy, are very much of the same sort of disposition as Ranil Wickremesinghe in terms of the negotiations with the IMF. And so in that respect, I don't see that there will be a major disruption in the talks. The talks can resume, and hopefully we will get a staff agreement by the end of next month at least.
How is the security situation around the capital as of now? Will the security forces be watching all developments from the day tomorrow once a new president is appointed? Are more protests expected on the streets? I think that's the big question.
I think, yes, that is the big question. And the deployment and the declaration of emergency and all of that was in anticipation that Ranil Wickremesinghe would be appointed, or that there will be protests to try to persuade people from not voting for him in Parliament tomorrow. So if I am correct, and there is going to be a sort of subsiding of the protests if Ranil Wickremesinghe is not made the president, then I think we can talk in terms of a degree of political stability being restored.
Just a final question there, sir. We've seen unprecedented protests take over the streets. People of Sri Lanka have been queuing for essential commodities for weeks now. Their simple demand is that the economic crisis get resolved. Whoever becomes the president tomorrow, is there a plan in place as of now to remove the country from this crisis?
The negotiations with the IMF will continue. It's a question of whether the negotiations with the bilateral donors for the bridging finance, until that money comes through, whether that will be brought to a successful conclusion. I think sufficient work has been done to ensure an easing of the queues in the next few weeks. But let's see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all those insights, and thanks for joining us on WION World is One at this hour. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.